Welcome to Global West. Please subscribe the channel. A major Alaskan airport faced an abrupt and total shutdown. The Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport ceased all operations. This happened after a frightening and highly unusual event. A small, unidentified aircraft breached the airport's secure airspace. It then made an unauthorized landing on a main runway. This was not a normal emergency. It was a deliberate and alarming action. The incident triggered an immediate lockdown. It left thousands of travelers stranded. It also launched a massive security response involving local, state, and federal agencies. The questions began almost immediately. Who was piloting the plane? What was their motive? And how could this happen at such a critical transportation hub? The event began just after 2 o'clock in the afternoon, local time. Air traffic controllers watched in disbelief. The Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport is not just any airport. It is a vital link for the state of Alaska. It connects remote communities to essential services. It is the primary gateway for residents and tourists. For many Alaskans, air travel is not a luxury. It is a necessity. The airport handles millions of passengers each year. It serves as a crucial hub for medical evacuations, mail delivery, and the transport of goods to isolated villages. Beyond its importance to Alaska, the airport is a major international cargo hub. Its strategic location is key. It sits at a crossroads between North America and Asia. It is roughly 9.5 hours by air to 90% of the industrialized world. This makes it one of the busiest cargo airports on the planet. A shutdown here has consequences that ripple across the entire state. It disrupts daily life in a way that is hard to comprehend for those in the lower 48. The crisis began with a single blip on a radar screen. At 2:07 in the afternoon, air traffic controllers at Ted Stevens International Airport detected an unidentified aircraft. It was entering their controlled airspace without authorization. The plane was a small, high-wing Cessna, flying at a low altitude. It was not responding to any radio calls. Standard procedure is to establish communication. Controllers tried repeatedly on multiple frequencies. There was only silence. The plane continued its steady, unwavering course directly toward the airport. This was the first major red flag. It indicated this was not a pilot who was simply lost or experiencing radio failure. As the plane drew closer, the situation escalated rapidly. At 2:12, the control tower declared a security alert. All departing flights were ordered to hold their positions. At 2:19, the unthinkable happened. The Cessna aircraft landed. It did not use a secondary runway. It touched down directly on the airport's main north-south runway. Within seconds, airport police vehicles and emergency crews surrounded the aircraft. They established a perimeter. They treated the situation as a hostile threat. The pilot remained inside the cockpit. No one knew their intentions. The final phase of the immediate crisis began. For nearly 30 minutes, a tense standoff ensued. Finally, at 2:48, the pilot complied. A single individual emerged from the plane and was immediately taken into custody. The immediate threat was neutralized. Inside the airport terminals, the situation devolved from a normal travel day to a tense lockdown. At first, there were just announcements of flight delays. This is a common occurrence in any airport. Most travelers were patient. They scrolled on their phones or grabbed a coffee, but then the nature of the announcements changed. They became more vague and more serious. This phrase, security incident, changed the atmosphere completely. A quiet sense of unease began to spread through the crowded gates. People started looking around, wondering what was happening.
I saw police cars racing down the runway, lots of them, with their lights flashing but no sirens. Then I saw a tiny little plane just sitting there, surrounded. It was surreal. My first thought was, is this a drill? But then you saw the looks on the faces of the airport workers. They were scared. That's when I got scared too.
My son kept asking why the police had such big guns. How do you explain that to a 7-year-old? We were supposed to be going to visit his grandparents.
The lockdown had a profound effect on airport staff. Gate agents and airline employees were on the front lines. They faced a barrage of questions from anxious passengers.
It was incredibly stressful. We were getting information in bits and pieces, just like the public. We had to put on a brave face while we were just as worried as everyone else.
The fear was palpable, especially for families with children. Parents tried to distract their kids with games and movies, but the tension was hard to hide. The official response was immediate and multi-layered. The moment the unauthorized aircraft was identified, a clear chain of command was established. The airport's own police force was the first to respond. However, the scope of the event quickly triggered a broader mobilization. The Anchorage Police Department, the Alaska State Troopers, and federal agencies were all alerted.
At approximately 2:19 p.m., an unauthorized aircraft landed at Ted Stevens International Airport. The pilot has been taken into custody. There are no reports of injuries.
Behind the scenes, the operational response was massive. Bomb disposal units were brought in to inspect the Cessna aircraft. This was a painstaking process. They used robotic devices to examine the plane before any human approached it. They were looking for explosives or any other hazardous materials. The coordination between different agencies was a key aspect of the management of the crisis. The airport established a unified command center.
Our collaborative training exercises prepared us for a moment like this. While the specific scenario was unique, the principles of unified command and control allowed us to manage a complex and dynamic situation effectively.
Our first priority was the preservation of life, and every decision made reflected that. The structured response helped prevent further chaos in a situation that could have easily spun out of control. This incident, while shocking, is not without precedent in aviation history. It brings to mind other cases where individuals have used aircraft to breach secure locations. One of the most famous examples occurred in 1987. A young German pilot named Matthias Rust flew a small Cessna aircraft from Finland through Soviet air defenses and landed in Red Square in Moscow. That event was a major embarrassment for the Soviet military. The Anchorage incident also draws comparisons to a more tragic event in 2010. In that case, a man named Andrew Joseph Stack III deliberately crashed his single-engine Piper Dakota into an IRS office building in Austin, Texas. Ever since the attacks of September 11, 2001, Aviation Security has focused heavily on commercial airliners. But incidents like the one in Austin, and now the breach in Anchorage, serve as a sobering reminder. They show that general aviation, the world of small private planes, presents its own unique set of security challenges that must be addressed. The Anchorage incident forces a shift in perspective. It pressures authorities to look outward, at the perimeter of the airport itself. It raises questions about how to better monitor and control the airspace immediately surrounding critical infrastructure. Unlike the Matthias Rust case, which was a political act, or the Austin crash, which was an act of violence, the Anchorage incident appeared to be something else entirely. The pilot did not crash the plane. They did not appear to have a political manifesto. The initial investigation suggested a motive rooted in personal crisis or a desire for notoriety. This makes it different, but no less dangerous. It highlights a vulnerability to unpredictable, irrational actions. It's a reminder that threats don't always come from organized groups with clear goals. Sometimes the greatest risk can come from a single, troubled individual. The impact of the shutdown extended far beyond the airport's perimeter fence. For travelers, the immediate effect was chaos and uncertainty. Thousands of people were stranded in Anchorage. Hotel rooms across the city sold out within hours. Rental cars became impossible to find. Many travelers were forced to sleep in the airport terminal. However, the community also rallied. Many local residents offered spare rooms to stranded travelers. Churches and community centers opened their doors to provide shelter and food. The airport staff and the airlines faced a logistical nightmare. The shutdown created a massive backlog of flights. Once the airport reopened, it took days to clear the congestion. Flight schedules had to be completely reworked. Crews and aircraft were out of position, not just in Anchorage, but across the entire country, and even internationally. This created a domino effect. The local community in Anchorage also felt the effects. The airport is a major economic engine for the city. The sudden halt in operations meant a loss of revenue for airport concessionaires, taxi drivers, and hotel operators. On a national and international level, the incident triggered a review of airport security protocols. The TSA and the FAA immediately began to analyze how the breach occurred. Aviation security experts from around the world watched the event closely. The key question was whether this was a one-off event caused by a single individual's bizarre actions, or if it exposed a systemic flaw in perimeter security. The incident in a relatively remote U.S. city became a case study for airport authorities everywhere. It forced them to re-examine their own defenses against low-tech, unconventional threats from the air. In the immediate aftermath, the first priority was to safely reopen the airport. After the pilot was in custody and the aircraft was cleared by the bomb squad, a thorough inspection of the runway was conducted. Once the all-clear was given, airport operations slowly resumed. The first flights to depart were those that had been holding on the taxiway for hours. It was a gradual process. Airport officials communicated with the public every step of the way. They provided updates through social media and news conferences. This transparency was crucial for rebuilding public confidence. Looking ahead, travelers can expect to see some changes. While specific security adjustments are often not made public, it is likely that there will be enhanced surveillance of the airspace around the airport. This could include more sophisticated radar systems capable of tracking small, slow-moving aircraft. There may also be changes to the physical perimeter of the airport. For travelers, the most visible change might be a more pronounced law enforcement presence in and around the airport for a period of time. The goal is to create a visible deterrent and provide reassurance. The investigation into the pilot will continue for weeks, if not months. The FBI will work to build a complete picture of the individual's background, motives, and mental state. The aviation community will be looking for lessons learned. They will want to know exactly how the aircraft went undetected for so long and what could have been done to intercept it sooner. For the Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport, the path forward is about more than just getting planes back on schedule. It is about restoring its reputation as a safe and secure facility. The incident was a severe test of the airport's resilience. The response of the staff, the authorities, and the community showed that resilience in action. The coming days and weeks will be focused on returning to normal, but it will be a new normal. One that is shaped by the memory of the day the airport went dark and a renewed commitment to ensuring it never happens again.